On television, Lawrence Welk appeared to be one of the safest and most wholesome figures in America. Week after week, families gathered around their screens to watch The Lawrence Welk Show, a program filled with smiling performers, floating bubbles, soft melodies, and what he proudly called champagne music. It was a world that felt untouched by conflict, a place of comfort, tradition, and simplicity. But behind that carefully crafted image was a far more complicated reality, one that remained hidden for decades until personal archives, letters, and records began to reveal the truth. To understand the man behind the image, it's necessary to go back to the beginning, far from television studios and national fame, to a small, isolated community in Strasburg, North Dakota. There, on March 11, 1903, Lawrence Welk was born into a poor German-speaking immigrant family. His parents, Ludwig Welk and Christiana Welk, had come from Eastern Europe seeking a better life, but what they found instead was hardship and isolation. At home, only German was spoken, which meant that when young Lawrence entered school, he struggled to understand even the most basic lessons. He felt like an outsider in his own country, unable to communicate easily with teachers or classmates. This sense of isolation shaped him deeply, making him quiet, observant, and determined to endure. Life on the prairie offered little comfort. Winters were brutal, and survival required relentless effort. His family had once endured freezing conditions by living inside an overturned wagon covered with sod, relying on body heat and limited food to survive. These experiences created a mindset built on discipline, endurance, and an unshakable will to push forward. By the age of 10, Lawrence Welk left school after completing only the 4th grade and began working full-time on the family farm. His days were filled with physically demanding labor, milking cows before sunrise, plowing fields, hauling water, repairing tools, and doing whatever was necessary to keep the farm running. There was little room for rest or play, yet within that harsh environment, something unexpected began to grow, a deep connection to music. That connection began with his father's accordion. At local barn dances, Ludwig Welk would play while neighbors gathered to escape the hardships of daily life. One evening, young Lawrence was allowed to touch the instrument. That simple moment changed everything. The sound of the accordion offered something the farm never could, a sense of freedom and possibility. From that point on, music became his passion and his escape. As he grew older, that passion turned into ambition. As a teenager, he asked his father to buy him an accordion worth $400, a huge sum for a struggling family. After careful thought, his father agreed, but only under strict conditions. Lawrence would work on the farm without pay until he turned 21, and every dollar he earned from music during that time would go back to the family. It was a demanding agreement, but he accepted it without hesitation. For years, he practiced tirelessly, often until his fingers blistered. He began performing at local events, dances, weddings, and small gatherings, sometimes secretly leaving the farm to do so. While the money he earned went back to his family, each performance strengthened his confidence and skill. Slowly, the dream of a life beyond the farm began to feel possible. When he finally turned 21, Lawrence Welk made a life-changing decision. With only a few dollars in his pocket and his accordion by his side, he left North Dakota in search of opportunity. The journey was difficult. He struggled to find steady work, often sleeping wherever he could and performing for small, unpredictable crowds. There were moments of embarrassment and failure, including one incident where a poor performance nearly caused an audience to turn against him, but he refused to give up. Eventually, he joined traveling entertainment groups like the Peerless Entertainers, where he was promoted as the world's greatest accordion player. While the claim was exaggerated, it pushed him to improve. He practiced relentlessly, determined to live up to the expectations created around him. A turning point came when his band performed in Yankton, South Dakota, and was invited to play on a local radio station. The broadcast was a success, and listeners responded positively. What began as a short opportunity turned into a steady position, providing him with both exposure and stability. During this time, he met Fern Renner, who would later become his wife. With a growing audience and a stable base, his career began to take shape. By the 1940s, Lawrence Welk had developed a distinct musical style. While other bands embraced louder, more modern sounds, he focused on creating something smooth, controlled, and comforting. During a performance at the Trianon Ballroom, someone described his music as champagne. He embraced the term, building his entire brand around champagne music, a sound that emphasized elegance, clarity, and emotional warmth. In 1951, he took another major risk by moving to Los Angeles and launching a television program on KTLA. He even invested his own money into the production, betting on a medium that many entertainers still considered uncertain. The gamble paid off. Within a few years, ABC picked up the show for national broadcast, transforming him into a household name. As the Lawrence Welk Show gained popularity, it became a symbol of traditional American values. However, behind the scenes, tensions were growing. One of the most controversial moments involved Alice Lon, a beloved performer known as the Champagne Lady. In 1959, she was suddenly dismissed from the show. The official explanation was that her dress was too revealing, but many believed the real reason was her request for a salary increase. The incident sparked public outrage, with fans criticizing Welk's decision and questioning his fairness. Another significant chapter involved Arthur Duncan, who joined the show in 1964. As one of the first black performers to appear regularly on national television, his presence was historically important. However, the show rarely acknowledged the significance of this milestone. Earlier years, Duncan had appeared on The Betty White Show, where Betty White defended him despite backlash. That show was eventually canceled, highlighting the challenges of racial integration in television. On Welk's program, Duncan found stability, but the silence surrounding his role reflected the cautious approach of the era. The story of the Lennon Sisters added another layer to the show's history. Their wholesome image made them fan favorites, but their fame also attracted danger. A man named Chet Young became obsessed with the family. In 1969, he murdered their father, William Lennon, in a shocking act of violence. The tragedy deeply affected the family and revealed the darker side of public attention. In 1971, despite strong ratings, ABC canceled The Lawrence Welk Show, believing its audience was too old for advertisers. Instead of retiring, Lawrence Welk took control of his future by launching his own syndication network through the Lawrence Welk Organization. The move was highly successful, allowing him to maintain and even expand his audience. Off-screen, Welk proved to be a skilled businessman. While many of his performers earned modest wages, he built a fortune through investments, music rights, and real estate. One of his major ventures was the development of the Lawrence Welk Village in Escondido, a resort community that reflected the same polished image as his show. When he retired in 1982, his influence did not fade. Even after his death in 1992, reruns of his program continued to air, and his business ventures remained profitable. The legacy of Lawrence Welk endures as a reminder of how carefully crafted images can shape public perception. In the end, the story of Lawrence Welk is not just about music or television. It is about contrast, the difference between what audiences saw and what existed behind the scenes. He created a world of simplicity and joy, but maintaining that world required control, strategy, and difficult decisions. The bubbles and smiles were real, but so were the complexities hidden beneath them.